Senate vote looms. A bill to defund Planned Parenthood could be put to a vote next week. Time running out. Hopes of finding two teenage boys alive off Florida's coast are fading. Mysterious artifact. A Catholic reliquary is discovered in the 400-year-old ruins of America's first Protestant church. And two new hands. This 8-year-old boy makes history with a double hand transplant. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, July 29th, 2015. Good evening from Washington. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick with your news now. The Senate will soon vote on pulling federal funding from Planned Parenthood. This after undercover videos claim that group harvests fetal organs for profit. Jason Calvi reports from the Capitol tonight. And Jason, when can we expect a vote on this?
Brian, we're told that vote could happen Monday night. Now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell already said the vote would happen before they break for their August recess. That break begins the end of next week.
3 undercover videos and a nationwide outcry.
Defund! When do we want it? Now!
The Senate answers that call with a new bill. It says no federal funds may be made available to Planned Parenthood Federation of America or to any of its affiliates. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst is the bill's sponsor.
What we're seeing right now is absolutely reprehensible. There are a number of questions that have been raised by these videos.
Planned Parenthood says the videos are heavily edited and a profoundly offensive violation of privacy. The group receives about $500 million in government funds.
This will ensure that taxpayer dollars that are supposed to be spent on women's health are in fact spent on women's health. It would ensure we're funding that and not subsidizing some scandal-plagued organization.
The Senate bill would give the money to other women's health care providers, like city and state health departments. But the question is, will it gain enough support in the Senate?
It's not a partisan issue. It's not even whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. This is an issue about our humanity. I was saddened, brought to tears by the videos. Without any question, I think the right thing for us to do is to defund Planned Parenthood.
Now, one Republican, Susan Collins of Maine, says she's against the proposal. The Democratic leader, Harry Reid, says Republicans are, in his words, dealing with some right-wing crazy. And Brian, I should add that today Hillary Clinton came out calling these videos disturbing.
All right, Jason Calvi on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Jason. A little later, Kristan Hawkins talks about nationwide women betrayed rallies organized by her group, Students for Life. Meanwhile, some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. Republican lawmakers continue to blast the Obama administration's support of a nuclear deal with Iran. Senator John McCain insists the deal paves the way for Iran to develop an atomic weapon.
And in all of this, Iran will not only have billions of dollars with which to go on a shopping spree in the international arms market, but it is also sure to find plenty of states that are eager to sell those weapons, especially Russia and China.
McCain's criticism comes during a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing today. Secretary of State John Kerry and Defense Secretary Ash Carter defended the deal. They maintain it's only one part of the U.S. strategy to confront Iran. The Israeli government is pushing for convicted spy Jonathan Pollard to be allowed to travel to Israel after his November release from prison. He was sentenced to life in prison almost 30 years ago, and his lawyer now says his client has been granted parole. Pollard was accused of passing classified military information to Israel while working as a U.S. Naval Intelligence officer. We have Fred Fleitz, Senior Vice President for Policy and Programs at the Center for Security Policy with us. Fred, do you think Pollard's parole is connected with the Iran deal, maybe to appease Israel?
I do, Brian. I don't believe in coincidences. Now, he was due for parole anyway. But the timing of the leaks of this possible parole, I think, was intended to influence the government of Israel and also pro-Israel groups in the United States.
Relations between the U.S. and Israel are not very sweet right now. How would this deal affect that relationship, of all of our relationships really in the Middle East moving into the future?
What's interesting about this deal, and you know I don't like this deal, I've talked about it on air.
You have.
it has united right and left in Israel. They don't agree. Likud and Labor don't agree on anything. They both agree this is a terrible deal that will hurt Israel's security. The Saudis hate this deal, and I mean, they're saying publicly that they're in support of it. I think this is going to lead states throughout the region to develop uranium enrichment and possibly their own nuclear weapons.
We heard Senator McCain say they could just buy weapons now from Russia and China. For that matter, really anybody that wants to sell them. Is there anything in this deal that could prevent that kind of sales?
I don't think so, and we know that these sales are taking place already. We know the Russians recently agreed to sell missiles to protect Iran's nuclear facilities from possible airstrikes by the U.S. and the Israelis. And I think sales like this are simply going to increase.
Now, you've heard allegations of the secret deals on verification. Is there anything to that, or is that just rumors?
Isn't it interesting? The first question today in the Senate Armed Services Committee hearing by Senator McCain was about the secret deals. Now, the Obama administration is saying this is a normal arrangement between the IAEA and a state that they're investigating. Brian, that's not the case. These are issues the administration was not able to resolve during the talks, and they appear to have hived them off into the secret process that only the IAEA will be able to be responsible for. But much worse is that under these agreements, Iran will be collecting its own samples for the IAEA, an unprecedented arrangement.
What is the IAEA?
The International Atomic Energy Agency.
And that's what will do the inspections.
That's the UN agency that's responsible for verifying this arrangement.
Congress is concerned that they're not really assured that these inspections will be verified, that they're not going to be legitimate. Are they going to get any new assurances in order to get this thing passed?
Congress is concerned that instead of an anytime, any-place arrangement, there's going to be a 24-day appeal process, which would probably drag on much longer. But if Iran, the perpetrator of a possible nuclear weapons program, is collecting its own samples, I mean, that makes the situation much worse. And frankly, what we've been hearing from Congress lately is they're very, very worried about verification.
We're going to hear a whole lot more, too. Fred Fleitz, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Well, reports of the death of a Taliban leader are being called speculation designed to disrupt peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban. An Afghan official says his government is examining new claims that reclusive leader Mullah Muhammad Omar is dead. The one-eyed secretive head of the Taliban was toppled from his rule in Afghanistan in 2001. Is debris found off the coast of an island in the Indian Ocean connected with last year's disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370? The debris, said to resemble a wing flap, has been taken to Reunion Island, where it's being examined by the French Air Force. That plane disappeared in March of 2014 after taking off from Malaysia's capital. Malaysia later declared it an accident, and all 239 passengers and crew members are presumed dead. Well, Tom Brady vows to keep fighting his 4-game suspension after the NFL commissioner upholds the Deflategate ruling. The New England Patriots quarterback breaks his silence with a Facebook post today. He says there is no smoking gun and the NFL has no evidence of him doing anything wrong. The league claims that Brady destroyed his cell phone to obstruct its investigation. The NFL ruled the Patriots used improperly inflated footballs in the AFC Championship game. The families of two 14-year-old boys missing off Florida's coast are not giving up hope tonight, but time is quickly running out. Experts say the boys could likely survive 4, maybe 5 days in the open water.
We still want to be optimistic that these 14-year-olds are still alive today. Absolutely, they could probably stay 4 or 5 days, so long as they have some type of flotation device that's going to help them stay afloat.
But days after the boys' boat was found capsized off the coast of Florida, searchers are quickly running out of time.
We're going into our 5th day of searching. And we don't know if they have any flotation device. As time passes, the possibility of finding them decreases. And at some point, we will have to suspend our search efforts.
The families of Perry Cohen and Austin Stefanos say they will not stop.
We know our boys. We know the determination and the courage that they have. We know the skills that they have. Both of our boys learned how to swim before they learned how to walk.
People continue to gather for prayer vigils to offer their support.
And I just want the families to know that we're all behind them. We're pulling for them, and we're hoping the same thing they hope.
And experts say, despite the odds, there's still a chance to find the two boys alive.
Hopefully they had a cooler with them that might have had some water bottles, so they may be drinking it very slowly, and keeping that lasting as long as they can, so that there's always a possibility that these kids are still alive today, and hopefully they'll be found soon.
Also off the coast of Florida, in that general area, a treasure hunt finally pays off big time. It yields $1 million worth of gold, 51 gold coins, one very rare, and 40 feet of gold chain. The treasure was found about 15 feet deep in the Atlantic Ocean off Fort Pierce. The artifacts date from a 1715 maritime tragedy in which 11 ships bound for Spain were lost during a hurricane. Coming up, an American dentist is implicated in the killing of a popular African lion. And a mysterious discovery prompts speculation that a colonial English leader was secretly Catholic. Today, July 29th, is the memorial of St. Martha, sister of Lazarus and Mary of Bethany. Mentioned only in Luke's Gospel, Martha, a close friend of Jesus, is the patroness of hospitality workers. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday evening. I'm Brian Patrick. Police in Zimbabwe want to question an American dentist accused of killing a beloved African lion. Conservation officials accuse the hunter and his team of illegally luring the lion away from a national park. 2 suspects are under arrest, but the American claims he did nothing wrong. Mark Irons has more.
This was Cecil, a 13-year-old lion well known to visitors and locals in western Zimbabwe. The prized animal seemed regal, sleepy-eyed, and not afraid of tourists. But his death is sparking international outrage.
There is no justification in killing an animal that wasn't bothering anybody else.
Conservationists say a Minnesota dentist, Walter James Palmer, an avid hunter, and 2 guides illegally lured the lion off protected land. Palmer, they say, shot the animal with an arrow. But that didn't kill Cecil. Instead, conservationists say the men tracked the lion and nearly 2 days later shot him to death.
If you're going to do something like that, be a man and actually go out into the wild where the animal has the chance to get some revenge against you.
After news of the killing spread, the dentist's practice shut, the blinds closed, and a note with contact information put on the door.
It upsets me that people can be so stupid to take a life like that, whether it's human or not.
Palmer released a statement saying, "To my knowledge, everything about this trip was legal and properly handled and conducted. I relied on the expertise of my local professional guides to ensure a legal hunt. I deeply regret that my pursuit of an activity I love and practice responsibly and legally resulted in the taking of this lion." Mark Irons, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Mark. And a presidential candidate is using Cecil the lion as an opportunity to remind people of this week's other gruesome story. Florida Senator Marco Rubio tweeted, "Look at all this outrage over a dead lion, but where is all the outrage over the Planned Parenthood dead babies?" There are plenty more similar tweets online from other pro-lifers tonight. Dozens of rallies were held this week expressing outrage with Planned Parenthood under the theme Women Betrayed. We spoke earlier this week with one of the organizers. It's good to have Kristan Hawkins, president of Students for Life, with us. I wonder what your group is doing with the information that's come out of these undercover Planned Parenthood videos.
Sure. Well, we've been on campuses for years talking about Planned Parenthood's business model to young people, about how they directly target these young women that we reach every day for business. And they'll set up shop. 79% of Planned Parenthoods are 5 miles from a college campus. But what we've been really working on, because of these latest 3 videos, has been our Women Betrayed Coalition. Yesterday in Washington, D.C., we had a huge national rally with Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Rand Paul, Dr. Ben Carson, and 64 other cities across the United States also had rallies. We're conservatively estimating over 13,000 people across the United States gathered together for Women Betrayed to declare that enough is enough. It's time to defund Planned Parenthood.
So there's momentum here. And these students that you work with, how are they receiving this message when they know that they are being targeted?
You know, it's really interesting on campuses because, we are the pro-life generation. So we actually are on the majority. But when we're on campuses and we're talking about abortion, we're talking about Planned Parenthood, what we find is that there's pro-choice students. Once they hear about the business model of Planned Parenthood, they're shocked. they don't want to go to Planned Parenthood anymore. And I think that for us is such a winning message that we can be taking, even to people who might disagree with us about abortion, but talking about what Planned Parenthood's been up to. And these latest videos from the Center for Medical Progress are a perfect example of what happens when a $1 billion industry has one goal in mind, and that's abortion.
So Planned Parenthood refers to the Center for Medical Progress as militant when it is them who is crushing babies. How do they justify that? How can you say that?
These are the same old talking points that we've been hearing for decades from the abortion organizations. And you know what? You can look at the Women Betrayed rallies yesterday across the country. Look at those pictures. Do these women look militant? Do I look militant? These are just talking points that they've had on the shelf from 1970, and they keep piling back on. But Cecile Richards is in for a big wake-up call, because this is a pro-life generation, and they're going to end abortion.
Nightline featured you and some others in this pro-life generation. How and why is this pro-life movement changing face?
Sure. Well, we've seen a dramatic shift in the pro-life movement. And I would say a lot of it's because of the ultrasound development.
Yes.
That, you know, our young people can go to Google right now, type in abortion, and they can see the bloody result of an abortion victim. They can go to Google and see a 4D ultrasound of one of my children or one of their nieces or nephews. The truth is out there. There's no more denying that, you know, it's a baby. They can't say it's a blob of tissue any longer.
Especially after these undercover videos.
Especially after these videos.
Kristan Hawkins with Students for Life, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
That conversation obviously recorded earlier. A distinctively Catholic artifact is discovered with remains buried for more than 400 years at what was America's first Protestant church. Burial sites of 4 colonial leaders were uncovered in what's left of Jamestown, Virginia's historic Anglican church. Archaeologists who revealed their discovery this week also found a mysterious Catholic container for relics buried with the men.
We think human bone is in there with this ampulla, and together they make what is usually a Catholic object known as a reliquary, but it's not necessarily Catholic. And remember, this is a Protestant Church of England.
There is speculation, though, that one of the men buried there, the son of a Catholic parents, may have also been secretly Catholic. Up next, as the GOP debate approaches, a doctor running for president wants to prove he knows more than medicine. And a medical miracle as a young double amputee gets a pair of new hands.
I've been blessed.
A well-formed Christian conscience does not permit one to vote for a political program or an individual law which contradicts the fundamental contents of faith and morals. A note on the participation of Catholics in political life from the Vatican tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick on this Wednesday, the 29th of July. Well, Republicans running for president get their first real test to prove that they can rise above the rest. Approaching the first round of debates, the candidate with the least political experience may be the best prepared.
I prepare for debate on a regular basis because I do a lot of town halls and I never screen the questions. I take all questions. So, you know, I've had hundreds, if not thousands of questions from people. And I don't know of a better way to prepare than that.
Only candidates placing in the top 10 in an average of national polls will be included in the August 6th debate in Cleveland. David Drucker is senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner, and with only 10 making the cut, those who don't make it, I think there's 16 now. That leaves 6 out. Are they done? Did they go home now?
No, it's far too early for anybody to go home just because you don't get into the top 10. And Fox News will be having a sort of junior varsity candidate forum, which will occur and be televised beforehand. So they'll still get on TV. They just won't be in the 9 p.m. prime time debate. But there's still a long way to go here, although it clearly benefits you to be in this first debate. It can help you with fundraising. It can help put your name on the map. So clearly there are advantages.
But even with 10, that's a pretty big crowd. Can anyone stand out in that crowd?
And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand here is with 10 people on the stage and the opening statements, the closing statements, and the moderators have to ask questions, this is not really a debate. It's really a candidate forum with everybody on board at the same time. And so you're going to have a couple minutes to make your mark. Don't blow it, but there's not really that much you can do.
How can the others handle the Donald factor? Can they just dismiss this guy as just a publicity hound, or do they have to take him seriously?
Well, I think anytime you have a candidate who's leading in the polls and there's a particular reason, which is there is a lot of frustration that's palpable among Republican primary voters or people that we think are going to participate in these presidential primaries, you don't want to dismiss that. I think for the purposes of the debate, the best way to handle Donald Trump is to ignore him. And I don't mean ignore him in a pejorative sense. What I mean is everybody's going to have a couple of minutes per question, or maybe just a couple of minutes per every 3 questions to have something to say. And there's no need to waste it on Donald Trump. In fact, look at it this way. Donald Trump is sharing the stage with 9 other people. He himself is only going to have a couple of minutes per every few questions.
But you know Trump, he's going to jump in.
Right? It doesn't matter. If you get yourself into a rope-a-dope with a guy like Trump, you're only going to lose because you cannot out-Trump Trump. So play your game. Don't take any guff and use the time that's allotted to you. The voters will figure everything out.
You wrote about Jeb Bush's unique approach to trying to lure Hispanic voters. Tell us about that.
Well, Jeb Bush is, makes no bones about the fact that Republicans need to win more of the Hispanic vote than they did in 2012. And he's hired a team of consultants and advisors to help him do that. One of the interesting things I found in reporting out the story about Jeb Bush is that he has a second aide that travels with him everywhere, that alternates every couple of weeks, a Spanish-speaking aide who is there to help him interact with Hispanic voters. And Jeb Bush speaks fluent Spanish. His wife was born in Mexico. He's really steeped in the culture. And what he's trying to do is use that to try and extend his reach with Hispanic voters. If Republicans don't do better than Mitt Romney's 27% from 2012, they're doomed again against Hillary Clinton. There just aren't enough of the white voting electorate as there was, 10 and 20 years ago to make up the difference.
Who do you see emerging toward the top after this debate?
Well, part of this is hard to know because we don't know yet if anybody's made a colossal error. So, if we remember 2012, Rick Perry goes into the debates flying high, says oops, and that's the end of him. Tim Pawlenty goes into one of the very early debates, and after criticizing Mitt Romney for his health care plan and deriding it as Obamacare, he's offered a chance on the debate stage to say something, and he won't.
Yeah.
So let's just say that nobody makes any errors and everybody plays it safe. I think you still have the top 3 or 4, which are Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, and then you're looking at somebody like a Ted Cruz and others that can rise and get in there.
I see you've eliminated Trump, even though he's still
I think over the long term, somebody who's taken his liberal Democratic position, funded Democrats, and is completely inconsistent on issues, I just think the voters will end up rejecting that once the real campaigning starts, the negative ads start, people will see it.
The sooner the better. All right, David Drucker, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's a medical first. A brave 8-year-old boy gets 2 new hands. Catherine Szeltner has his story.
Zion Harvey became the youngest patient to receive a double hand transplant earlier this month. Doctors only revealed the surgery's success this week. But more impressive than the medical feat is Zion's spirit.
8-year-old Zion is pushing through life.
I only bring a wheelchair if we go somewhere like the beach and we're walking a boardwalk.
At age 2, he got an infection. Doctors were forced to amputate both Zion's hands and legs below the knee. This little boy has already shown great independence and strength.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Pull hard. Oh, I can't break that elbow. That's great.
Doctors thought he'd make a good candidate for a hand transplant. Zion agreed.
I said to him, and I didn't know what the response would be, why do you want hands? 8-year-old, I'm figuring what kind of response would he give me? He said, I want to climb on the monkey bars.
He also hopes to toss a football. The transplant was a major undertaking for Zion. It required a 40-person medical team and a nearly 11-hour operation. Yesterday, doctors and family members voiced relief at the surgery's success.
For me, it's just like a blessing. I've been blessed with a godsend, an angel, as I might call him. He gets mad when I say that, but he is.
Zion will spend the next few weeks in rehab and the rest of his life taking drugs for his immune system. But the boy with the biblical name is quick to look at what others are doing.
I want to say to you guys, thank you for helping me through this bumpy road.
No doubt his gratitude will help Zion navigate that road as he gains a new grip on life.
The transplant donor's family has chosen to remain anonymous. Doctors say Zion woke up smiling from the traumatic surgery. He first described his new hands as weird, but then as good. Brian?
Weird but good. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you for joining us. Until tomorrow, good night. God bless you.